Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WTF1 Podcast. My puppets are waving and they're laughing as well. Why are you laughing?
Just how we always do it so in sync. I don't know how it happens, but it's just like not just the waving, but even like
As soon as you hear me,
yeah.
it just there you go, boom. But here we are. Welcome, Portuguese Grand Prix time, WTF1 Podcast. Welcome to Tom Bellingham and Katie Fairman, my two esteemed guests, not guests, family. You know, it's just Tom is obviously the WTF1 founder. It's literally in my contract. I can't not say it, otherwise I'm fired. And Katie Fairman, of course, the WTF1 editor, bringing you all the news and gossip and all that good stuff. So today, obviously, Portuguese Grand Prix, Portimao, 3-word race reviews. Let's dive straight into it. Sharon, design, drafting, all about tyres. Samueli _Giovanoli, sleeping Grand Prix. And Younes _Domain, fun, then boring. I think Younes has nailed that pretty well. I think it was more that than the sleeping Grand Prix. But yes, it was it all kind of just happened in that first part of the race, didn't it? And then it all settled down quite, well, I say nicely. It was almost like last year, wasn't it, Portimao, in that sense, because there was chaos at the start, Sainz taking the lead, all that sort of stuff. But then as soon as the positions sort of jostled around, you had the two Mercedes out in front. Hamilton, of course, overtook Bottas back in 2020, and then it was done. And again, it was that same kind of vibe, wasn't it?
It was. Shall I go into my 3-word race review? Because it's pretty much that.
Oh, yes. Let's do that, Tommy.
My 3-word race review is 2020 Deja Vu. And that's not... it's kind of what you were saying, but also the fact that it felt very similar to a kind of your standard 2020 race, I guess, if you like. Not just the fact that we had a now record-breaking Ham-Bot-Ver or Bot-Ver. No, Ham-Ver-Bot as it was in the actual race, but that's now the most common podium ever in Formula One. But the fact that you had Bottas doing well in quali, but ultimately not quite good enough in the race to match Hamilton overtaking him, Verstappen kind of hanging on to the two Mercedes. It did kind of feel like we were back in 2020 for that race, didn't it?
It did,
indeed. Yeah. It was a bit of a weird one, really. I'm still in two minds as to whether or not the track's good, as much as it's a roller coaster, undulations, all that good stuff.
The buzzwords, buzzwords.
Bingo cards for that. But yeah, I was of the same opinion. What about you, Katie?
Yeah, I loved like the look of the cars going around the track. I mean, to have a circuit, like you say, that's such a roller coaster, like the TV footage that picked it up, it just looks an awesome track to drive, and I'm sure the drivers like it, unless you're Max Verstappen, who said he never wants to come back here,
which was savage, wasn't it? Straight,
yeah.
I mean, that is Max. He will just say it how it is, and I'm sure probably someone at Red Bull went, "Yeah, you probably maybe don't
just rein that back a bit."
Yeah, we do want to sell Red Bull cans in Portugal. Please don't.
But no, I agree with what Tommy is saying. It seems that the beginning of the race is super action-packed. There's loads of overtaking, which obviously we're all really happy about. And then it sort of dies down and these massive gaps form. And then it just becomes a bit dull. I was saying that. I mean, it's difficult because we had two such insane races to kickstart the season that, naturally anything that followed that was not as crazy as Imola and Bahrain was obviously going to be compared to being a bit boring and a bit dull. But yeah, I'm kind of in two minds. Like, I like the idea of racing in Portugal and going back. It's got so much history there, and the circuit isn't terrible. It's just there are other circuits that, for example, we're not racing at, like, Canada's been cancelled this year, which is a great shame. And I would probably prefer to race in somewhere like Canada than Portugal if I had the option. But
fair. Although I guess it's the comparisons people are making at the moment are Turkey, aren't they, to Canada? And yes, they're both good tracks. I'm excited to see Turkey later on this year. Of course, Canadian fans, sorry, next year, hopefully, fingers crossed. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go to Canada. Never been. Anyway, that's getting off the point. Il_Ingegner, whoever that is, and if that's their actual name, I've just butchered that. Have the rule changes saved F1 from Lewis Hamilton's retirement? I've never seen him so excited about racing. He's really enjoying this challenge, and I think we're witnessing the best year of his career in terms of driving, apart from Imola. going into the wall. And anyway, I wouldn't say he's probably the absolute pinnacle of his driving ability. Obviously, we've seen some great performances. Don't get me wrong. As for the rule changes saving everyone from Lewis Hamilton, I don't know. I just feel like he could easily change his mind like that if he just decides, you know what, I don't like this anymore. I don't enjoy it anymore. I think deep down he wants 8 titles, 100%. That's just the goal, isn't it? You want to be the greatest of all time, especially if you're in Lewis's shoes. You're one away and potentially the best car on the grid. If that's up for debate. As for the excited about racing, I feel like he relishes in it when he's the one coming out on top. So he'll be the one going, oh, yeah, what an amazing battle with Max and Valtteri. Oh, I was behind. I was feeling good. And then eventually he wins. And then, of course, he's going to be like, yeah, love it. And then, but I want to see an alternate universe where he finishes third in that battle. And then he goes, yeah, no, loving the battle. Yeah, no, they both beat me. But wow, God, love it. I just feel like maybe his excitement comes from the fact that he comes out on top in those battles, and that's when he enjoys it the most. Of course, you want to win when you're in a close battle, but I think he'd take winning a boring race over losing an exciting race.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we're all the same. Even if it's sim racing or something,
Have you ever won a sim race?
Yes, I actually won a C-class race on Gran Turismo once. Yeah, but the fact that Lewis Hamilton, I totally agree. He's all happy and friendly now. If it had been Max 3 from 3, and
which
Hamilton,
it could have easily been,
maybe it could have been. It's definitely a lot closer this year. I think it would be more, we need to catch up, rather than, oh my word, I absolutely love this. And of course he's going to love it, because essentially he put in 2 brilliant overtakes. Seemed to be the only one that could actually overtake at Portimao, especially with the front runners, and is getting a proper challenge, but still doing extremely well, and is leading the championship. Whether if he'd had the mistake at Imola and was quite far behind, would he be as chirpy? But that's just human nature, isn't it? Of course, you love it when you're winning, and I'm sure if it does get to that stage where maybe Red Bull have a couple of good wins on the bounce, it would be interesting to see if he's still very much chirpy, because that the thing that springs to mind with Hamilton, which I feel like will forever haunt him, is that BBC article of Vettel's dominance could be quite boring for Formula One. So we shall see.
That's an F1 struggle right there. Yeah, it is. It's great to see Hamilton so happy and excited after the races, because although obviously last year he did super well, won the championship, sometimes I think he probably felt like he was just out there on his own. Bottas wasn't really able to challenge him in the ways that he should have done. And he was just sort of one horse race, took the title, and that kind of stuff. Although Max did challenge him at some points, but finally he's able to fight someone that he doesn't share the same Mercedes garage with, which is something that we've not seen in a really long time. And Hamilton even did a Pirelli test a few weeks ago in Imola, which he volunteered for, which he said, I don't ever volunteer for test days. It's a really great track to test at, and the weather was good. And then said that he planned on being here being F1 next year, and I want to help Pirelli create a better product. So perhaps he really is enjoying this battle and he wants to continue on. Maybe he wanted to just get more time in the car, or maybe he's just shutting up the 2022 rumors straight away. We had it all of the half of 2020 season. Will Hamilton stay on? Will he do something else? Will he just suddenly retire? But maybe by saying this, I plan on being here next year, he's hoping just to shut the media up straight away, and so he can focus in on this challenge that he's got. But I'm loving it. I think it's great. It's so refreshing to have 2 drivers from 2 different teams, both, incredibly talented drivers. I think it's a question that we'll talk about later with Max Verstappen. He's still making little errors here and there, but he's generally polished his driving style so well over the last few years, and is actually of that top tier that he can actually challenge Hamilton, and he has a car to do so. So for us fans, I am thriving. I love it.
for a boring race as well. The fact that it still kept the title nice and close, and it's now been a Max and Lewis 1-2 in every race, either order. So yes, it's very good.
Finely poised, I think you'd say.
Fingers crossed for the whole year, eh?
Yes.
Fingers crossed. It's looking that way at the moment. You do imagine one of the teams will get the upper hand as we head into the second half of the season, perhaps Mercedes, but we don't know because hotter conditions usually suit the Red Bull better. So, we could have a really interesting fight. I'm hoping so. Back to the Lewis sort of winning and enjoying the racing and stuff. Of course, it's human nature, as Tommy says. You're going to be absolutely over the moon if you win a battle that's so unbelievably close. And it was toing and froing in that race as well, wasn't it? With the Red Bull looking much better on the mediums, and it looked like Max was going to win. And then as soon as they switched over to the hards, Max was nowhere. And let's speak about that other person that was in that battle, Valtteri Bottas. Josh_Vocope says or asks, what happened to Bottas in this race? Is he starting to show cracks or is he really just underperforming? What is next for him, as I can't see him staying at Mercedes for the upcoming season with the way he is currently performing? I think that bit's a bit harsh. I think Mercedes are very happy with Bottas if he can just be 10 seconds off the pace or whatever, not 10 seconds, 10 seconds over a race off the pace. But I it's not a case of saying that Valtteri Bottas is underperforming as such. He got in a good lap in Q3, his first run, obviously got pole, and then that second run where you expected everyone to improve, the wind got up and no one could improve. So I feel like Bottas was almost slightly out of position being on pole, and then he just had a Valtteri race, in my opinion, where he's just a bit slower than Hamilton. And you could see that because Hamilton was all over the back of him until Max obviously got past at the safety car restart, which was a great move. And Lewis just said that he'd looked away from Valtteri's car for half a second or a second or whatever it was, and he was gone. So yeah, it was really interesting to see that kind of unfold. Because you did think Bottas, okay, you've got a great start, you're in a good position, but he just had no pace, absolutely no pace. You never see it the other way around, ever really. I can't think of a race where Hamilton was slower than Bottas in a race. Can you?
No, it's so true. No, because he's the one. Yeah, like even if Bottas gets pole like he did, you always feel like Hamilton's going to be the one hunting him down. So
you always see a Hamilton passing Bottas. I can't remember. I literally cannot remember
we've
the last
had this
time Bottas
conversation before, and I don't think it maybe.
I'm just reiterating.
Ever
now more races down, and I still don't remember a Bottas overtaking Hamilton.
Yeah, I think the problem is the narrative of Bottas is they've never said he's a number 2 driver,
just a wingman.
But well, I guess Toto did say he was a wingman, but realistically, he kind of is. And it's interesting how the narrative, like say, of Bottas, you get this race where he's been on pole, beaten Lewis Hamilton, who's statistically the greatest qualifier of all time in Formula One in the same car. Yeah, his racing isn't great. We all know that. His wheel to wheel, especially with Verstappen, his defending was very poor. You think that he'd fight that a bit harder, especially when as soon as the tires are warmed up, it's so difficult to overtake. But
you mean when he came out of the pits?
Yeah. I don't think he defended that. Do you think he was a sitting duck?
His tires were not up to temperature at all because of the durability of the Pirellis throughout this weekend. They were the hardest of the 3 compounds.
I just thought he might at least kind of really cover the inside and go.
I think he tried to, but you could just see that he literally just slid.
Just had nothing.
And Max got the undercut. But yeah, I mean, Bottas could have done better maybe at the end of his stint to have a bigger gap. But yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is I don't feel like he gets enough credit personally. If you look at him as a number 2 driver, which maybe this is just because I see him as like, and you've got to admit Lewis Hamilton is the same. He sees Max as the challenger, not Bottas, even though Bottas in his head obviously has to say, I want to win the world championship. He's a solid driver for Mercedes. If you look at someone like Perez, I know he's new in that car, but an experienced driver like Perez is now in that second driver seat in a top team, and he drops back into the clutches of the midfield, isn't really close to his teammate like Bottas was, and then somehow wins driver of the day, which I personally feel like was a joke. Yes, his tire management was really good, but he's kind of way off his teammate there. And you've got to admit,
fourth.
You've got to think, would Bottas have, like, what would the narrative have been if Bottas has had that race that Perez had, where he qualifies fourth, he's absolutely nowhere near Hamilton, he drops back behind Lando at the start, then, is on a different strategy. I think it's not a spectacular drive from Bottas, but for me, that kind of drive just adds to the reasons why I think they'll keep him, because
Agreed.
he's not gonna smash into Hamilton. Like Hamilton, when Hamilton overtook him, he pushed it a little bit, but didn't take any unnecessarily risks where you've got to think maybe other drivers, if they did put again like a Max or a Russell or someone like that wants to win and doesn't want to be Hamilton's number 2 teammate, would probably race Lewis a lot harder there, and there's the potential for them to crash into each other, and they've got another whole Rosberg situation. So I think Bottas has been pretty solid apart from Imola, and is doing exactly what Mercedes need him to do, personally.
Yeah, I think Mercedes have been properly scarred after the Hamilton-Rosberg drama of 2016. And I mean, if you look at how Bottas is getting on as a second driver, if you want to call him that, a wingman, look at, for example, Alex Albon at Red Bull last year. I know he's more inexperienced than Bottas was, but if you're looking at the results that Verstappen was achieving and then what Albon was achieving, that was not a good thing for Albon. And, as a result, he was dropped from his seat, which I don't think it's fair to compare Bottas to somebody like that, because he's consistently getting those points, ending up on the podium. And like Tommy said, he's not going to, well, as far as we're aware, he's not going to just suddenly have a meltdown on track and take out Hamilton and they'll have a big issue. He's fairly cool and calm. And I don't know if that's because he's a Finnish driver and that's just the way their mindsets are. But yeah, I think it's important to stress that I don't think Bottas is a terrible driver. It's very easy to critique him because he's up against somebody like Hamilton, who, like I've said, Hamilton is like a god tier, isn't he, of a driver? And Valtteri just isn't at that point. Like, Hamilton just has the minerals, as Matt says often, that he's just better. Like, that's just my opinion. I think it's just
everyone's opinion.
There's opinion and it's fact, isn't it? Really?
I was going to say, can I say it's fact? I mean, he's got kind of enough wins and stuff like that, but don't get me wrong. I think he has his moments, Bottas, like getting pole this weekend. He beat Hamilton fair and square when it came to qualifying, but perhaps maybe it's the years of going up against Hamilton. It's beginning to take his toll, but I mean, as that wingman position, I know he said he doesn't like being called it or being called a number 2 driver, but it must take insane mental strength to turn up to work every day and think, I am better than Lewis Hamilton, when we all know what a phenomenal driver Lewis Hamilton is, and then doing your job and you still lose to him every single time, near enough. Like, that can't be easy on a driver's mental strength and stuff like that. So it's tough, but
definitely.
We'll see if he stays.
We'll get the mini violins out for Bottas. I'm sure it's not the worst job in the world, is it, to drive the best car on the grid? And I think the counter argument to Bottas, being a good fit for Mercedes, is the fact that the only team that can challenge Mercedes are Red Bull. If there were 3 or 4 teams in the mix and Bottas is finishing at the end of that train 6th, 7th, 8th, then you've got a problem. Alex Albon was maybe 3-4 tenths off Verstappen, but Red Bull didn't have that buffer to the rest of the midfield. So then he would fall into the clutches and, sometimes get caught out by that. So for now, Mercedes are fine with Bottas because, that they have that leeway, that buffer. But I wonder if, the new race coming in next year, fingers crossed, the field becomes a lot closer, even though the field is quite close as it is. And then, maybe then they have to have discussions as whether Bottas is good enough. But right now, he's the perfect fit. Anyway, moving on. My 3-word race review. A different Max. So what I mean by this, and I'm going to say this very carefully because
I've
Dutch
got my
fans
pitch
are scary, as well as you, Tommy. I think we're seeing a slightly different Max this year, and I think I may have said it in the podcast leading up to this season, or I don't know, maybe in my own head. But either way, I thought that maybe we would see a different Max where finally he believes he can win the world title. He has never thought that before. He thought, okay, maybe I can win a race, maybe I can get a podium. But he's never believed deep down that he can win the world title until this year. And now I feel like it's starting to boil over just a tiny bit. I'm not saying that he's driving badly or anything like that, but there's mistakes that we don't usually see or haven't seen from Max when he's in that less pressurized situation of, being in the Red Bull and fighting the Mercedes, but knowing that at the end of the day, if he doesn't win the race, Red Bull will be like, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. Whereas now, he made that error in qualifying, which would have got him pole position, track limits deleted. So then he started third. And he obviously knew that because you could see, he's pushing the camera away and things like that. You don't see that from Max really that often. And it's quite clear that he's quite a fiery individual. And then, of course, you had that one mistake. And of course, I'm talking about the tiniest mistakes. I'm not saying I can do better, but I'm not an F1 driver. I'm an F1 fan talking about an F1 driver's performance. And, he made that mistake round turn 14 and Hamilton got him, and that was it, and these small errors are what add up over the course of a season. Of course, he was amazing in Imola. I'm not saying he's doing it over the course of the whole season, but he should have won in Bahrain potentially if he had judged the move with Hamilton better or maybe taken a bit more of a measured approach. I don't think Hamilton, for example, goes for that move on Verstappen around the outside at Bahrain if roles are reversed. And again, with this, I feel like it's just starting to get away from him a little bit. And I feel like he has to just kind of bring it back a little bit, rein it back and go, look, okay, this Red Bull is amazing. Not every weekend is going to go to plan. If I'm a faster car, just rein it in just that little bit like Lewis does, and that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, I think it sounded from what I heard, the race was kind of lost almost in qualifying because he obviously had the track limits problem in qualifying as well, and that lap would have put him pole. And then from what I read, it sounds like Red Bull had the car set up to be leading from the front from pole, and you could see that, even when he was behind Bottas, he could just not get anywhere near him. And it almost felt like a reversal of normal where it used to be the Mercedes couldn't follow, wasn't it? That as soon as Mercedes got behind another car, because they know they're going to be on pole every race and just go off in the distance. And it looked like that Red Bull could just not follow behind, another car. So I saw Rosberg have this opinion as well, and he's not scared of a little spicy opinion where he kind of said we're starting to see these small mistakes from Max, and we had a few questions on it as well. It's a difficult one though because you can argue that if Hamilton wasn't, yes, I mean yes, he was lucky, wasn't he, Hamilton in Imola, that the red flag came out when it did. That if Hamilton had gone off in Imola and we didn't have that red flag, Max would be leading the title by 20 points or whatever, and then maybe these wouldn't feel so significant. But that's the problem. He probably has made a lot of these silly errors before where he's gone off the track, but now it's in a title fight, and especially against someone like Lewis Hamilton, he has to be absolutely faultless. And rather than it being like, oh, sorry, you missed out on challenging Bottas for P2 this week, and it's the difference between second and third. The way this title is going, it could be the championship just running wide and missing out on a pole position, because the way it's going, it could come down to 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be really interesting to see how it all unfolds. I mean, like Max, Lewis and Max both make mistakes. They both have weaknesses. But I think Lewis has just had more time in his F1 career to iron out those weaknesses and try and improve them and make himself a better driver. We've got to remember that Max is only 23 and Hamilton is 36. Obviously Hamilton has been in F1 since 2007, Max 2015. So it will be really intriguing to see how Max can take this idea of being able to win a world championship this year. Like Matt said, this is kind of the first year he's ever really had it where he's come into a season and there is a really, really strong possibility that he could be lifting that world championship trophy at the end of the year. So I think we'll see how he gets on. But what we don't want to do is see him, like Matt said, boiling over and having the stress get to him too much.
Yeah, the question came in from @Seb5 is back. It's pretty much what we've just covered. And then said at the end, what's your opinions? Is he ready? Now, I've obviously mentioned that he has made mistakes. He is definitely ready to take the title fight to Lewis. We've seen that in Imola. That was an unbelievable drive from him, an amazing start. He took the lead in really tricky conditions. And Lewis has made mistakes. We're not saying that Lewis is faultless by any stretch. And as we've already mentioned, he is very fortunate to be leading the championship. But that's just the way a whole world championship works. You have moments of fortune and misfortune. And, you get to the end of the 23 races and we may be looking back and going, well, that extension there or that mistake out of turn 14, whatever, may have cost him that 2-3 points, whatever, a sprint qualifying win potentially. That sort of stuff. So obviously we're only 3 races in, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But at the same time, we know that we hope deep down that it's going to go to the wire, and that's why we're taking all these little incidents so seriously.
Yeah, I think Helmut Marko said, didn't he, that Max is now, and he wasn't saying it as the kind of side of Max has bottled it, more just it's very unlucky because track limits is very difficult. We saw, I think Lando Norris said after Imola that it's not as easy as you think to just stay on the track because you're pushing and these cars are so unbelievably quick. They're taking corners and it can be the tiniest. I mean, a lot of the cars in this race, the wind played it sounds such a pathetic thing when you're driving a Formula One car around, but the wind can have such a huge effect. Yeah, exactly. But
Nico Rosberg, USA.
Yeah, exactly. But these it's such fine margins, and Lando, I think, was saying it is really difficult sometimes to, not go off ever so slightly, and you get your lap taken away or penalised. And Max has now had essentially a win cost through track limits because of the Hamilton thing going around the outside of him. His fastest lap got done for track limits, which is a point, and is arguably the pole position for track limits as well. So they have really been screwed over by this track limits rule, which you could argue was put in because people weren't happy with Hamilton cutting the track in Bahrain. And they're like, right, if you go off the track, you're penalised. And if anything, it's hurt Max the most. But yeah, it's 3 races. I feel like we've both said that at the end of the day, Max is his first ever time going into a championship fight. How many championship fights has Hamilton had? So he knows how to deal with it. And you look at some of Hamilton's championship fights, even when he'd won the championship, he still made plenty of mistakes in like 2010 and 2012 that could have cost him there. So you've got to give the benefit of the doubt to Max, I think. But yeah, I'm just excited for this season. I hope it lasts all season because, especially with Max, I think he will. One decision, Max isn't going to hold back, is he? He's gonna. He could expect. I mean, if he's pushing the camera away after qualifying third, when he could have got pole, imagine a real bit of controversy if he gets taken out in a race or something. It's gonna.
I can't wait. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our sponsor for this episode, Manscaped. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0 kit. This comes with the Essential Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof cordless body trimmer and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your grooming routine. This trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. With a Perfect Package or Performance Package purchase, you get 2 free gifts, the Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped boxers. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code WTF1. Right, let's get back to the podcast. Katie, your 3-word race review.
My 3-word race review is Ocon exceeds expectations.
Wow, did one about Ocon. Okay.
I did,
all
yes.
Right. Good old Esteban.
Yeah, exactly.
Tommy's there like, oh God.
No.
You said Alonso was going to smash him.
Oh, I thought you were on about like me like being a Verstappen fan because
no.
The narrative of like Ocon people.
No, start of the season, Alonso's going to smash Ocon.
I know. I'm feeling a little bit more worried.
Love it. Carry on, Katie.
It's great. But yeah, obviously Alpine had some incredible pace this weekend, which sort of came out of nowhere. And both drivers were like, we're not really too sure where this pace came from, but we'll take it. But yeah, in terms of Esteban Ocon, this is now the 3rd race in a row in which he has beaten his experienced teammate Fernando Alonso. Tommy, just...
I thought it was 2. No, Alonso outqualified him.
in the race. So
sorry,
Alonso's
okay.
out qualified him
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, because the race is more important than qualifying, Tommy. I don't know if
No, it's not. I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I mean, in FP3 this weekend, Esteban finished 5th, which is great. Qualified in 6th, ahead of Lando Norris in a McLaren, and then finished the race in 7th, which is a solid result. So yeah, I think, well, as we said at the beginning of the season, my unpopular opinion or my spicy take, or whatever you want to call it, was that Ocon would beat Alonso, and I got absolutely wrecked in the comments of people being like, "You don't know what you're talking about," and
Okay.
we made this bet.
to attack
And
back. That's not a good idea, Katie. Don't.
oh, okay, I'm
They
really
will
sorry.
have
I
you the
take
next
it back.
time you're wrong. Just take it and move on.
Yeah, I'll be really humble. So yeah, well done, Esteban. That's my point.
Amazing. Yeah, Esteban had a great weekend, didn't he?
Did.
Alpine were generally really quick. Alonso didn't make the most of it in qualifying, finished 13th, I think it was, on the grid for the race. So, and Fernando obviously showed that the pace was there in his car as well, because he got up into the points. But Ocon, yeah, had a great race. Got beaten by Lando at the start, didn't he? But overall, and I think Ocon did fall back a little bit, didn't he? He had to get past the Ferraris, and so yeah, it was weird because the midfield just changed. We kind of thought we had a good idea of who was going to be sort of the lead pack of that, and then Alpine just went from struggling to get out of Q1 to being like, hey guys, we're Q3 and we're coming for points. So when that happens, everybody else just goes down a little bit, and then all of a sudden Ferrari aren't having as great of a weekend, unless Charles Leclerc had an okay one apart from qualifying, but overall it's just constantly jiggling around, isn't it? Which is just how we like the midfield, really. Formula 1.5. Feder Russo 17355 says, could Ocon ever get in a Mercedes? No, I don't think so. As much as I love Esteban, I just feel like there's other alternatives. Maybe later down the line if he really does prove himself, but I can't really jump on the bandwagon. As much as I felt like Ocon would do okay against Alonso this year, I don't feel like he's got enough under his belt to start staking a claim at Mercedes.
It feels like that ship has sailed a bit, because it's important to remember. It's almost, maybe new fans won't even know this, but Ocon at one point was what George Russell is now. Everyone's saying that this is the Mercedes next talent. He won the Formula 3 championship against the likes of Verstappen, and yeah, he was incredible in his first year in Force India, as it was then. And yeah, people were saying, you had the argument of like we do now, where Bottas has one bad race and everyone's like, oh, he should be replaced. And that used to be Ocon. People saying, oh, get Ocon in the car. And he's had a amazing race. And if he beats, I'm still not 100% sure. I'm not writing off Alonso, because it seems like everyone is struggling in the new teams and stuff. But yeah, I mean, Alpine were looking very good this race.
Yeah, I should probably go back and say, like, I'm not hating on Fernando Alonso. I think he did a
Here we
great
go.
job. No, backtrack.
Can't backtrack now.
He did a great result, and like we say, he's been away from Formula 1 for a long time, but I was just impressed with Ocon. But yeah, Ocon's previously been a Mercedes reserve driver, obviously, when he had that period of not being in Formula 1, when he wasn't with Racing Point or Force India or whatever they were called back then, and he was managed by Toto Wolff. So it's a relationship that it's not just something that fans have just picked up and like started to run with. Like they've previously been working alongside each other, and Toto was partly responsible for getting him that Renault, now Alpine seat. So it's possible. I mean, when I searched it up, there is chatter that Lewis and Valtteri could be fighting Ocon and Russell for the Mercedes seat next year. That's apparently a quote from Toto Wolff. However, I couldn't find anything from a reliable source, so I'm not sure if it's literally just like some fan has made this quote up and it's like circulated and stuff, which is often what happens.
Sorry, to repeat that again, Katie.
That Lewis and Valtteri could be fighting Ocon and Russell for the Mercedes seats next year.
So Ocon's still on their radar, though.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. I thought they would have been like bon voyage and said goodbye
Lewis
when he
and
went
Valtteri
to Renault.
Are fighting Esteban and George for the seat.
You mean Bottas?
As in, it must be a case of if Lewis or Valtteri decide to hang up their boots. I can't imagine Mercedes are ever going to replace them, right? So yeah, maybe that's like I don't know, miswording with that quote or whatever in terms of translation or whatever. But yeah, seemed a bit odd to be saying that they're fighting against Lewis and Valtteri for the seat. But who knows? We're not the ones behind the scenes. Back to Alpine. Wicked Bad Man 1.
Great name.
Are Alpine becoming a threat to McLaren and Ferrari, or was this a one-off race? Portimao is a very unique track. You know, it's low grip. It's a roller coaster. And
undulation.
It's got a lot of bumps and ups and downs. But yeah,
and a swimming pool.
Exactly. I feel like maybe we've learned that Alpine are good around low grip tracks. Maybe when we go to Turkey, maybe there won't be as much grip there again. But yeah, it's difficult to get any sort of representation from this race. I think if anything, we take the first two, and Alpine maybe, I imagine, will slot back in onto the sort of coattails of the points, and McLaren and Ferrari will be the standout two again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, the midfield again, like last year, feels like it's going to change every single race. For me, I'd be surprised if Alpine are up there again. It did seem track dependent. Yes, they have bought upgrades, and there was one of the team members from Alpine was saying, you know, well, we've improved from Bahrain to Imola and improved again. We don't know. The midfield's so tight that I think just different tracks will suit different cars, and that's what we loved about last year, because that's what got us so many different podium finishes, because the midfield was mixing it up every single race. So yeah, it's very hard to tell, but as a bad prediction that would age badly, I'd be surprised if they were up there as much as they were for this track, because it is such a bizarre track, isn't it?
It is rather odd. Yeah, I think it's likely to be not necessarily a one-off, but don't expect them to be doing the same in Spain, which is probably going to age really badly. But hey ho,
Alonso victory incoming.
Yeah, exactly. But Ocon did beat Ricciardo here last year, so maybe it's just a track that he's more happy with and likes it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Formula 1.5, is that what it's called, that you call it? Yep. How that shapes up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Formula 1.25, I feel like they're kind of getting a little bit closer every single time, especially McLaren. Although maybe Lando was good. Anyway, Portimao, yay or nay? Talk about the circuit itself. Are we a fan or not? 10 Ian? Is that Ian or Lan? Don't know. I'm going to go with Ian. 10 Ian Mook. 10. Is it possible to keep this circuit on the calendar for upcoming seasons? I like Portimao, but I wouldn't miss it if it left. That's kind of my opinion. I feel like we've had two very crazy starts to the race, and it's better than Spain. So if we're going to choose between Portimao and Spain, then goodbye Spain. But yeah, I think
See you later.
Generally speaking, it's not a worldie of a track. You know, it's not grippy, and the drivers make mistakes and stuff, but it doesn't blow me away. You know, the low grip element of it is what's made it these last two races quite interesting.
It's really hard to judge bad races these days because the cars are absolutely abysmal at overtaking. I know that we said, oh, do they really need to change the rules? But this race definitely made me think, yeah, they probably do. Even though we're obviously loving the fight, it's still very much, you can't get within a decent amount. And
even with this track,
they changed the DRS zone, didn't they?
They did. So they shortened it by 165 meters, I think it was. So, and also the fact is that this track almost allows different lines as well. So you can get rid of some of that wake from the car in front. So in that sense, it's quite cool that you can have a different racing line, but yet still they couldn't really get that close because of overheating and all sorts.
Exactly. And the DRS zone, while you had last year, almost seemed too easy, didn't it? This year, maybe just about right, but it was also like it just depends from different situations and who's behind who, because Hamilton made light work of it, but then Verstappen just couldn't get around that final corner without losing the car because the dirty air was just too much. So it's one of those things where I'd like to see it with the newer cars, because it is very hard to judge these new tracks because and just generally tracks now, because these cars are probably the worst in history for overtaking and stuff. But I doubt we'll see it again personally, because it does seem like it's a filler track just to help out with the COVID situation when tracks drop off the calendar.
So my first WTF1 podcast I did last year was actually for the Portugal race review. And my 3-word race review was make Portugal permanent. And
and I bet we were all like, yeah, it was amazing. We love
wicked.
it. And now we're like, oh, that's a bit rubbish.
We can never be
Which is
pleased.
exactly what we did with Imola. Exactly what we did with Imola when it was a wet race last week. We were like, oh, Imola's actually really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nah, I said it'd still be rubbish if it was dry.
Okay. But yeah, I think it seems unlikely that it will be back on the calendar, especially in like a permanent slot. We might see it again for like a one-off if, heaven forbid, COVID doesn't die down and go away and calendars continue to be disrupted over the next few years. We could well be back in Portugal. But F1, as we well know, goes where the money is, and unfortunately the money is not with Portugal. It's not really a circuit that's got tons of cash money lying around, and
that's my kind of phrase.
Yeah, there you go. I'm speaking the lingo.
Yeah, minerals, cash money.
We've done like a Freaky Friday kind of thing here. But yeah, I'd like to go and watch maybe MotoGP around Portimao, but we're not on a MotoGP podcast. We're on an F1 podcast.
No,
so
not. How dare you say that?
No. Oh, I'd say Formula E, MotoGP.
Oh my God.
I'm going to get kicked off.
I'm only kidding. Yeah, I don't think we'll see Portimao again. But, if F1,
Max
for example, decide to...
Yeah.
Max will be very pleased. But I think also if F1 decide to do this sort of random track that they pop into a calendar and that sort of stuff, we might see it that way as well. Right, moving on to driver of the day was Perez, which I think we should call underdog of the day, because that's all this award is. It's never driver of the day, or it's who's done a performance that we didn't really expect, and everyone was thinking Perez wouldn't be on the pace, or I don't know. It's very confusing to me that Perez was given driver of the day when he started fourth, went backwards, got back to fourth, went backwards again, got back to fourth, had okay pace. Don't get me wrong.
Tire management was really good, but it's like, is that really worthy of driver of the day?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Perez is known for. And yes, okay, he was kept out on the mediums for God knows how long, because Red Bull were clearly throwing a card of, can you hold up Hamilton for a lap? But apart from that, like it was meh.
I almost thought it was going to be I would have. Yeah, I was absolutely convinced that Daniel Ricciardo would win it and get the classic driver of the day, where it's qualifies absolutely abysmal and then finishes in the points where he should be in that car, and then gets driver of the day, because that's the people. For me, this is just more proof that it is absolutely impossible for Lewis Hamilton to win driver of the day, even when he goes from third, is the only guy that can overtake, passes the two other quickest cars to win the race, and then still doesn't get driver of the day.
Did he get second or third? Because usually that graphic comes up. I don't know.
This is the thing. This is why I think it was a bit sus that we didn't have the driver of the day percentage graph pop up during the race.
Yes,
I feel that there might be some foul play and people voting for a certain driver on the grid. Obviously, I'm not saying this is necessarily true. This is just my feeling, but that people were voting for somebody for driver of the day.
For a meme, basically.
For a meme, and they were like, that's not going to happen. So they just went with Perez or whoever was in second.
It's happened before, hasn't it? Because I think Haryanto won driver of the day, got pretty much the whole of Indonesia to vote for him, and won by like 99%. And then they were like, we can't really give that him for... I can't even remember where he finished.
They did it with Hülkenberg as well when he came back last year for the where was it? Was it Silverstone?
When he was in the pit. When he was in the pit.
Yeah, he didn't even make it
driver
to the race.
Of the day.
He got driver of the day, and I think they had to be like, we can't allow that, guys. Sorry.
Didn't Verstappen as well just win every single driver of the day for a while, and then he won driver of the day at USA when he conked out and all that sort of stuff.
Well, let's say this: if Verstappen had done what Hamilton did, where he was third, overtook Bottas and Hamilton and won the race, he'd have been easily driver of the day.
Century, not driver.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, people don't want... It's amazing that that is considered a boring race and a boring win. And it kind of just says a lot about Hamilton, if anything, that kind of drive from a lot of other people would be just a bit meh.
I don't want to label that race as boring. It wasn't boring.
No.
People jumping on this boring bandwagon just because we had Imola with crazy rain and all that stuff.
If
that
that's
wasn't
the
a
most
boring
if that's the
race.
most boring race of the season, I would take it.
We literally had a round the outside move for the lead from Lewis Hamilton, which was scintillating, by the way. Like, it was such a good move. And of course, Bottas, could have made it a little bit harder potentially if he, wasn't in a Mercedes. But generally speaking, like, that was awesome. The fact we had a fight, we literally had an on-track overtake for the win and overtakes within the top three. I'll take it. I know that the whole thing wasn't chaos, but as a race, that's a 6, 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5, whatever. I'm not going to put a number to it because people's ratings go like, what you can't, because in my head, 10s don't exist. Anyway, moving on. Driver of the day was Perez. Rubbish.
But it was
BYD. BYD Rob, do you think Perez was given the best possible strategy that worked for Red Bull? Can't decide if leaving him out for so long was utterly brilliant or just set him up for no better than a P4 finish. Great drive from him, though. I think he was set up for a P4 finish after his start. And that's it. Red Bull, they can do whatever they want with him. Maybe they were hoping for some sort of safety car, because if they had a safety car, I'd imagine everybody would have dived in for softs with 20 laps to go. So leave Perez out, whack some softs on, and you're leading the race if it's a safety car. So for me, I feel like it was just leave him out there, make him do what he's good at doing, which is tyre saving. His pace was decent, but P4 he was done for as soon as Sainz got through on him, and then Norris got through on him as well. So, but apparently Lando's move was a bit illegal, which I heard, but nothing.
Yeah, I saw that. Wow, midfield doesn't matter, does it?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Even P4's like, nah. Just the podium places.
Max Verstappen runs wide on his fastest lap. Within 3 seconds, they've deleted it.
Literally half a millimetre over deleted.
Makes an overtake. Oh, it's fine. He's in the midfield. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Perez is totally agree. They had to do something. It was one of those situations where, at the end of the day, he's P4 if he does a normal strategy. So why not hope for a safety car, and then maybe you're ahead of. Well, you could be leading the race or even ahead of Max and Bottas. So it's worth the gamble. Obviously, Perez, being the tyre god that he is, could allow that strategy to happen. So I guess that's why people liked it. Just to say that Sainz's pace was absolutely horrendous on the mediums, and Perez managed to make them last that long was impressive. But it was worth taking a risk at the end of the day, because even if they'd have pitted him and he had the pace to catch Valtteri, you could see that the pace and the inability to overtake was not there. So you might as well just risk something. I think the main thing is going to be interesting to see whether in a normal, if that keeps happening, even when Perez is there, because they kind of did it with Albon last year, didn't they? Where Red Bull would put him on these crazy strategies, but he wasn't actually there. It'd be interesting to see if I would be a bit miffed if it keeps happening when maybe Perez is only a couple of seconds behind Verstappen and they start putting him on these ridiculous strategies.
I don't think they would. I don't think they would. Like, that just doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense to do what they did with Perez in this race. Because, as you say,
exactly.
The only way they win the race with Perez is a safety car. So.
And also, people will say, "Oh, it's there to, even if he did hold up Hamilton a bit and Max could catch up and win the race," and people would be like, "Oh, well, Perez is just playing for Max." Like, that's still more Constructors' Championship points for the team, so it makes sense to do it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to echo what you guys said if I elaborate on it. But yeah, 52 laps on those tyres from Checo was a really impressive thing to do. Like you say, especially when you saw Sainz just absolutely wounded out there on track with those tyres. He was really struggling. But yeah, not my driver of the day.
Lance Stroll sat there doing like 35 laps on the softs. Like, where's my shout out?
Yeah, come on, guys.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Ocon last year, didn't he do like upwards of 50 odd laps on the mediums or hards, whatever it was? So yeah, there's more than one tyre god out there, but apparently Perez is the driver of the day god as well as the tyre god. ABCDF1. It's time to play the jingle. And that was time for ABCDF1. Perfect, brilliant, lovely. Here we go then. Let's dive into our rankings. Let's start with Hamilton. as, well, A star. Just start with an
Yeah.
easy grade.
Yeah, even though he was out-qualified, his race was so good. And
Yeah, it's a
only
it's a
guy to
low A
overtake.
star. I mean, he was only out qualified by 7,000ths of a second, wasn't he? So
Yeah, exactly. And he made the difference in the race. So yeah, A star definitely.
A star as well.
and the fans give it A star. We're all together happy, lovely.
Hey.
Bottas, of course, got qualifying, got pole, but was a bit mediocre in the race. I think that deserves a B.
Same, yeah. Solid, great quality, met in the race. B.
Yeah, I think he had exhaust sensor issues, which, ultimately led him to losing about 5 seconds. But just in looking at the whole grand scheme of the race, 5 seconds wasn't much when he was like, what was it, 30 seconds behind Verstappen at one point or something like that. So yeah, probably a B. Sorry, Bottas.
I'm sure he is an avid listener.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fans gave Bottas a B as well. Verstappen. Yep, so he did things. He messed up quali, but then got past Hamilton, then made that mistake, then got past Bottas, finished P2.
I'm struggling with this one
because I feel like it's and he's in the best-ish car. You'd have to say that. I don't know.
The turntable.
It's difficult to say whether he's in the best car or not.
Yeah, it is, because
Verstappen
like
said that
were really good, wasn't
it? Yeah, Verstappen said that Mercedes were the better car. Of course he would. But then I'm kind of trying to take these as evidence because he's the only one that drives the car apart from Perez, but Perez was nowhere. So
I don't feel like I could rate him the same as Bottas though, but I guess we can't give high Bs and low As. But
no, we can't. It's very borderline A-B.
Part of me wants to give him a B because my argument in the last time for giving Hamilton a B was that it was a race that he should have won and didn't win. But I don't feel like that was as clear cut. So
I'm going with B because he messed up quali as well.
I'm going with A.
I'll go with A. I think he said it's the best he could have done, which obviously he's going to say, isn't he? But
rubbish.
Yeah, I think comparing how I've ranked other people, I'll give him an A.
Yeah, it's hard to do it.
But the pace to get pole gets P3 and then doesn't win the race. Well, all right, no, it's a very high B for me, but I can't give high Bs. I have to give a B. So it doesn't matter. Verstappen gets an A, and the fans give him an A too. So I look forward to the comments. Perez. Perez. I think it's just a B performance. He had good pace, did well on the tyres, but nothing outstanding. Certainly not driver of the day. And I think it was, a B performance. Perez.
Yeah, B, solid.
Yeah, gone for a B as well.
And the fans give him a B. Right. Lando Norris. I know. Lando Norris. He was very good. If he started 7th, finished 5th. And he's just on his absolute A game, and I'm going to give him an A because I think that was a really good performance from him. He's got confidence. He's beating Ricciardo week in, week out. What more can you really ask from him?
Yeah, agreed.
But then the people are going to be like, why not give him an A star? Because it's not.
Yeah, I feel like that's reserved for podiums and things, isn't it? When he does something unbelievable. But I guess that's to his credit almost that sounds a really weird thing to say, but it's his credit that you almost expect it from Lando. Yeah. Now this year he's been so good, so it's just a really good drive with an A. But then I gave Verstappen an A, and no. Yeah, okay.
Are you about to?
No,
are you about to change Max's grade?
No, it's an A. A for Norris. Yeah,
I've gone for an A. This is his 3rd consecutive result in the top 5, which is pretty outstanding.
And he's 3rd in the championship. He's beating Bottas.
That's in a McLaren.
Really impressive after 3 races.
Amazing, isn't it? Okay, and the fans gave him an A as well. Danny Rick, rubbish qualifying, got up into the points. Now this for me is borderline BC, just purely because his qualifying was horrendous, and Norris clearly showed the pace of that car. But no, he did have a good race, to be fair to him. And, he kind of kept hitting runs of form, and it was toing and froing. 1 minute he was getting through the field, and I thought maybe he could finish like 7th or 8th. And then he was kind of falling back again and getting overtaken. I think it was by Gasly, but I think it's a B.
I've gone for C just because I think his qualifying was so poor. And he made his way through the field, but he shouldn't have been down there in that car anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone for a C.
For God's sake, as soon as I'm nice, you two are like, nah.
Well, like Tommy said, he shouldn't have been there. Like, it's all very well saying, oh, he fought his way up the grid. He shouldn't have been there in the first place to be in that position to fight up the grid. He should have been in the top 10.
I can see the flames.
I'm just
steam
annoyed.
coming out your ears, Katie.
No,
Jeez.
this is from the Ricardo fangirl.
Okay, well, I've been overridden, and it's a C for Ricardo. The fans gave him a B, so the fans are on my side. Charles Leclerc, we are going to give. Well, he had a poor qualifying. He ended up beating his teammate, didn't he? Finish P6. I think that gives a B. A B.
Yeah, I've gone for B. It's 6. That's a good result.
It was a good drive
for Ferrari. I think 6th is. I'll take that, especially with Carlos just absolutely falling off at the end. But yeah, Leclerc said that the Ferrari were really struggling on mediums this weekend. They don't know why, but I mean, Charles Leclerc is just very self-critical anyway. Like anytime he just doesn't do anything that he's happy with, he's really beating himself up in the media pen. But I still think P6 is a great result for Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's decent. I guess because there wasn't much chaos out in front, 5th was the best. And it's second in Formula 1.5. So yeah, it's not a bad result for Ferrari. So we're going to give him a B, and the fans gave him a B as well. Carlos Sainz, well, what a topsy-turvy race this man had. He had such a good start, started on the softs, got up to 4th, was looking pretty good. And then it just all went downhill from the restart, didn't it? Where he ran wide, got overtaken. I think he locked up, didn't he? And it's just, it was just out of sorts for Carlos. It just shows that he's not up to speed with that Ferrari over the course of an entire race weekend. He's showing glimpses. And Imola, of course, he finished behind Leclerc, but he had loads of mistakes there, which was, kind of evened out because of the red flag. So I think it's a C for Sainz. As much as he started in such a great position in P5, he didn't utilize it.
Yeah, it's hard to rate Sainz for me because he was screwed over by strategy. It was such a poor call from Ferrari to put him on those mediums when clearly the hards were the way to go to the end. But then I guess you look at someone like Perez that did manage to make him last and go all the way.
And Lando as well. Didn't Lando go soft medium as well? So
did he? Okay, fair play then. All right, C then.
Yeah, I've gone for B, but I've said the same. Messed over big time by pit stops. He was one of the first people to pit for a fresh set of tires, but they just absolutely fell off, and he was literally a wounded car by the end of it because people were just overtaking him easily.
Yeah, the thing is
just so sad.
Go on, Tommy.
I was going to say it wouldn't be a podcast complete without me complaining about the Q2 tire rule, but he definitely was screwed by that rule where he's qualified extremely well and then has to start on the soft tires, which aren't really the way to go. I mean,
Lando made it work. So
everyone else is in there,
but it is a different car though.
Yeah.
But because Leclerc, of course, went from softs to hards. No, he didn't. He went from medium to hards.
Yeah,
he went medium hard. Sorry.
Better. Leclerc was out, wasn't he? And
no, he was P8, but he managed he managed to get through on Q2 mediums. Which was a stunning result, to be fair, but then just didn't make the most of Q3. So Sainz C, and the fans gave him a C as well. So you're being too nice, Katie. Right. Sebastian Vettel. Well, that looked so promising, didn't it, for a little while? P10 in qualifying. Seb's back. Resurgence. And Katie just froze for a second there. I thought I'd disconnected.
It's my internet freaking out that he got into Q3.
Tommy wasn't moving as well, so I was like, "Oh, I'm the one that's disconnected." But I just realised Tommy was just really enjoying what I was saying. So Vettel, of course, was P10, but then was, it just wasn't particularly great.
Aston are just so meh, aren't they? They epitomise midfield, but not a good midfield.
The bottom midfield.
Yeah, they're in the worrying grade where they're just going to finish 12th and
we're going to go
13th every race, and we just go C for both.
I'm giving Vettel a C.
Alfa Romeo 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. I'm giving Vettel a C as well. Overachieved in quali, but car's not there, and the race didn't seem that great. So
yeah, no, I've gone for C for both Aston boys.
Oh, both. Okay, we've flown straight in.
Sorry.
Actually, let's just do that. So Vettel and Stroll, both C, and the fans give them both a C. Pierre Gasly, AlphaTauri, just in general, were
dreadful. Not dreadful, but just look. If you think how good they looked in Bahrain, where we were hyping them, saying they're like best of the rest, even up there with McLaren, and they just looked nowhere.
Yeah, who are you hyping in Bahrain in particular? There was one driver, was it Yuki Tsunoda? How's he done since?
Tommy's internet's going to go now.
Start painting over my AlphaTauri wall.
Oh, I love McLaren now. Yeah, but back to Gasly. Yeah, AlphaTauri, I think they were the ones to really suffer from Alpine coming strong, even Aston Martin with Vettel, you know, that sort of stuff where all of a sudden we have some midfield runners that we weren't expecting into Q3, for example, and although Gasly did get through, but Tsunoda didn't, and you know, they're really struggling with the car around there. But I fully imagine, as I said earlier, I think that the track is very much a one-off with the way in which
it's really windy. I know we said that before, but they did themselves come out and say that their car is very sensitive to windy conditions, and everyone was complaining about it all weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, so I feel like it's a one-off for them. They'll just brush it off and go again in Spain, and they'll have a bit more grip supposedly in Spain. So, well, unless it's raining, which it might be, but I've said that now, so it'll be 30-degree heats. So yeah, Gasly C. Yeah. And the fans gave him a C. At Yuki Tsunoda, D. Easily a D.
I know he's like, it shows that you see like the newer guys are really struggling against their teammates that have been in the car for a while, but it still just was not a good performance, was it? He was, started 14th. You're kind of hoping he'd move up the field, but finished 15th and track limits again. I don't know if he's overdriving the car a bit and getting a bit too.
Well, it's weird because he came
kind of thrill in Bahrain. Maybe he's kind of a bit too excited and
because he came into this weekend saying he was going to take it a bit easier after his mistakes in Imola, but obviously got his track limits warnings very early on, and obviously I don't think it equated to a penalty in the end, did it? I don't. He kind of behaved himself after that, but generally speaking, AlphaTauri and Tsunoda as well, not performing. So D, and the fans gave him a D. Fernando Alonso, bad qualifying. Where did he finish?
Eighth, yeah.
Eighth. So a very decent drive from Fernando. I feel like he was quite what's the word? Aggressive, but confident in his moves as well. It was kind of Fernando of the old. We saw a glimpse of it in Bahrain as well. But yeah, it was a really good race from Fernando, I'd say. It was disappointing that he qualified as badly as he did. So I'm sort of leaning towards a high B than a low A. But yeah, I'm going to go with a B for Alonso.
Yeah, I've gone with a B as well, even though, because I personally think if he'd have qualified better, he might have even, how good he is in the races and been able to pull out these performances. And you saw that at the end on the hard tyres. He was really, really good at the end. But you've got to think that if he'd maybe qualified where Ocon did, or if not around there, he might have been able to challenge the likes of Leclerc and Norris maybe, because he is that kind of character. Well, I certainly still feel that he is that kind of guy. So yeah, I've gone for B as well.
Yeah, I think it's a high B, definitely. He really impressed me this weekend. I mean, both Alpine drivers, I think, did the best they could with what they had and really took advantage of the fact that their car was quick this weekend, which is good. So yeah, I'm going to go with high B, I think.
We can't say that. It's a B for Alonso.
It's a B.
And the fans gave him an A. So they now despise us. That's fine. One grade out's fine. Esteban Ocon, great performance. I think it's a solid A from him. Finished P7. He looked strong. Alpine looked good. We've already spoken about him. I think it's an A.
Yeah, it's more like the Ocon that we expected.
Yeah, the Ocon from Force India
F1
days.
Yeah, A, definitely.
Katie,
A as well.
A. Okay, and the fans gave him an A. Kimi Räikkönen drove into the back of his teammate when changing something on his steering wheel, which, it's an F. There's no, you can't do anything worse than driving into the back of your own teammate when it's like, oh, sorry, mate, I was just taking a call, or I was just a bit distracted. What? He was in the slipstream of his teammate. He's like, what? Now's the time to just change a few settings. It was very odd because I remember seeing it and going, wow, okay, what's going on over there? Oh, maybe they've, wheel to wheel, bit of wing, whatever. No, just driven straight into the back of Giovinazzi, who was very lucky not to get a puncture. But I think the way in which it hit that rear wheel, he was lucky. So Räikkönen F, the fans gave him an F. Giovinazzi, C, don't know.
See.
Oh no,
Why are you
bless
laughing?
him.
Oh, it's an ongoing
It's-
joke. I feel
it's-
so bad.
Yeah, because it's just kind of a bit anonymous. It's hard to know where the alpha. It's hard to know where to place the alpha for me as well, because last year, if Giovinazzi's 12th, you're giving him a B, maybe even an A, because the alpha was absolutely dreadful, and it was down with the Hasses, wasn't it, racing and barely getting a point. But yeah, I feel like the car is a lot better, and it was just kind of decent, but not amazing. So I've gone for C.
Okay, C. And the fans gave him a C. Are you happy with that as well, Katie? Yeah, C?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Right.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'm joking. George Russell. Well, this was a tale of two
Wow.
halves, qualifying, nearly getting into Q3. And then, I mean, I didn't hear everything in terms of George Russell's race, in terms of was there anything wrong with his car? Was there?
The wind. No,
Yeah.
just the Williams being utterly
Dreadful.
dreadful in dirty air. Because
horrendous.
yeah, what they were saying, I think Ted Kravitz was saying at the end of the race, that they've built a car in the wind tunnel, which is, the best possible car they can build. And, we saw George Russell get an 11th almost into Q3. You kind of almost wouldn't be surprised now if there is maybe one race this year where he does actually manage to do that.
Imagine.
But then they just fall back. And he said the car was, and Latifi was the same, absolutely undrivable. As soon as they get behind another car, it's undrivable. The car cannot follow, which is probably very concerning for George when he's trying to get points. And part of me thinks that if he hears Mr. Saturday one more time, it's starting to get to the point where it's like, sir, stop calling me.
I would like to be Mr.
Saturday.
Sunday.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, we kind of predicted this a little bit, because Williams said in preseason testing that their cars will be great in like really tiny, small, like windows of everything has to be perfect and it'll be all good. But I mean, that's not how life works, I'm afraid, Williams.
Well, that's the thing though. It would work quite well if they just somehow just absolutely steal an 8th place and then they're buzzing, because that's all they'd take 4 points.
Yeah, exactly. And then
so
the other Alpha haven't scored any points yet, have they? So
no, so they're just trying to beat Alpha and obviously Haas. I think
Haas.
There's no
Haas.
Yeah, not Alpha. Yeah, there's no problem, I think, in beating Haas at this stage. Yes, George Russell. Yeah, I mean, if the car's undrivable, I'm just going to give him a C.
Yeah, same.
It's difficult to say. The fact he fell like an absolute stone makes me want to give him a D, but
really quickly as well. But it's not. It was. You can't really punish.
We just judge it on
doing
qualifying.
An amazing qualifying. Pace.
C.
So C. Yeah.
C.
Fans gave him a C as well. Latifi just going to give him a D because it was worse than Russell and beaten by Mick Schumacher as well. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Nikita Mazepin blocked Perez. Minute behind Mick Schumacher.
Penalty points this weekend.
That's a surprise.
Flags, yeah.
There's something not right with his engineer. I'm just going to say it. That he.
Good job.
Huh?
He said good job, didn't he, when he let Perez through?
Yeah, but also they said afterwards that they just didn't tell him that Perez was coming up behind him and weren't.
Oh, what? I heard the radio of him saying blue flags, Perez coming.
Yeah, when he was
pretty
much right behind him. And obviously, you saw was it practice when Mick Schumacher overtook him at one point and Mazepin didn't even know he was alongside him. He was like, "Whoa, what the hell? You need to tell me about these things." And he's like, "Oh, sorry." Clearly not a great relationship with him and his engineer there. So,
need to do better as a whole. I think has to. It's just been, not great. So I think Mazepin's performance is kind of like it's D territory.
I'd say E because
actually,
because of how far off
he was. A minute
he was a minute off.
He did do an additional pit stop compared to Schumacher.
Well,
but
drive better. That's the reason he's done the pit
make
stop.
Up the time.
Unless did he have a puncture or anything? But the thing is, you have to make those tires work and not overdrive them, overheat them, and then they just fall away. So perhaps that's what he did. So I think E.
Yeah. Just to clear something up as well, because we had quite a few questions about it. There was a team radio going around where someone had played it where Gunther Steiner and they'd done a very good edit where it was Gunther Steiner from another race where he was shouting at Magnussen. And
Yes, I saw
did you see that?
I saw
But we did
that.
get quite a few questions thinking
not
that was
real.
legitimate. So Gunther Steiner didn't tell Mazepin to shut up and then have a go at him after the press thing. That
I
is
mean, that
not
was-
a
yeah.
real
I completely
interview.
missed that.
Watching that, I mean, you know that's not real. Like,
We'll wait to see that on Drive to Survive next year.
Yeah, that's
oh,
very
that
that's
was-
very true. That's going to
It'll be
be.
Gunther Steiner telling like Hamilton to shut up or something.
It'd be,
That'll
it'd be Mazepin doing Vettel's radio from Brazil.
Yes, okay, and the fans gave him an F. Shock. Mick Schumacher, he beat a Williams, so
B for beating a Williams.
Yeah.
yeah, B.
Let's do it. B.
And the
Yeah.
fans gave him a B as well. Boom, there you go.
Good on Mick. That was good. That was a good drive.
Yeah, it was a good
Is
drive.
that his engineer?
Yeah. Oh my god, I
well
love that
done,
guy.
Mick. You did such a great
I
job.
want him to read me a bedtime
Read-
story. It's really relaxing.
Do you want him
and
to
zen.
read for you as well?
Yeah, just all of it.
Moving on. Predictions for Portimao. My predictions were Vettel out qualified by Stroll. Damn it! God damn it! I should have just copy and pasted it for next week. And Perez out in Q2. God damn it!
Wow.
I didn't have any faith. Tommy,
Hamilton dominant win, and Leclerc makes top 3 in qualifying.
now what
Yeah, what do we
Does
classify that as?
classify as dominant? Because
Yeah,
wasn't on pole, wasn't leading.
won by 30 seconds. But
Yeah, because
very
they
much.
stopped. Because they stopped.
Half a point. Cool. cheers.
I will allow half a point.
Yeah, half a
yeah,
point.
I will admit that it's half a point because that's making it sound like he's completely wiped the floor with everyone, which wasn't quite the case.
And Leclerc top 3. No.
No.
Katie.
Well, I've gone from getting 2 points last time to nil points. I said,
This is what
check-
happens, Katie, when you don't do,
Mm.
cars will race this weekend.
Yeah. I've gone Checo victory, which didn't happen. And then Carlos top 5 finish.
Which was looking so good.
It was.
was,
And I think
yeah.
actually I forgot it to put in qualifying at the end of there. So I'm going to give myself half a point. I think
Nice
it got
half point.
deleted on the Google sheet.
Ah, okay.
Mm,
Half
so
point for you then.
half a point
Yeah,
for
nice.
me.
Half a point. Fans, F. Glenvick. Bottas wins due to Hamilton DNF. No. Smith 50797538. Both McLaren in top 5. No. Quist 35. Ferrari will score the most constructors points. No. Okay. No points for the fans. Predictions for the Spanish Grand Prix. Mercedes front row lockout. Alpine don't make Q3. Tommy.
Really safe prediction again, Matt.
Yeah.
Shut up. I got 0 points last time. I was gonna
We
say.
need something.
True. I'm going to go for Sainz beats Leclerc in the race and Vettel in the points. I was waiting for that.
Oh dear. I've gone for this is fine in the race that Ricardo beats Norris in the race.
Sorry, I'll stop.
And I've said Perez podium. And this is the last time I hype Perez up with a good result because I think I'm now reverse jinxing it.
Yeah, I
because
think
it's
you
just
are.
As soon
getting
as he's out of the points, he'll win.
yeah.
Okay, interesting. And the fans have gone for Albon Elliott, has said, not Albon, Arbon. Hamilton wins by 20 plus
Alex
seconds.
Albon has messaged in.
Hamilton wins. Hamilton wins by 20 seconds, or 20 plus seconds. C_McNaughton 17. Both Williams cars will have a Q2 appearance. And literally everyone, Hambot Ver.
Nice.
I genuinely was like going through all the predictions, and we had God knows what, like 50 replies when I first checked, and 40 of them were just Hambot there. So
Okay. Literally everyone
the
then.
unpredictable Spanish Grand Prix. Bring it on.
Amazing stuff. Okay, well, that's it. Katie, final thoughts.
Oh no, you done me first. I think Portugal's going to look really exciting compared to Spain.
Boom. I love how you were literally shocked there.
I
that
really
got that
was
on
not.
you.
I was caught
I was
so
like,
off guard.
I was just gonna, give Tommy a little bit extra to not think of anything and still be like, Tommy, final thoughts.
I literally have nothing in my brain right now. I'll just go with what I said earlier, that if that's a boring race that we're all falling asleep for and snoozing, and it keeps the title fight nice and close, and you still have essentially the winner of the race having to come from third to overtake a couple of cars, I will absolutely take that as the worst race of the year. Thank you very much.
Lovely. We'll take it. Bank. Lovely. Cool. Right. Thank you so much to Tommy. Thank you so much to Katie. I don't know why I did a weakest link reference. Thank you to
That
Manscaped.
is a
Thank you.
That's niche.
proper throwback. That is.
And thank you to Manscaped as well for sponsoring this podcast. If you want to get involved next time, use the hashtag WTF1 Podcast, or just answer the post that we put out on our Instagram, Twitter, and so on. And please be sure to give us 5 stars, a thumbs up if you're watching or listening. And we'll be back potentially for a very special. We'll be back for a very special podcast potentially this week. So look out for that. We can't say much because we're just waiting for it all to be confirmed. But look forward to it. And we'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bank.
Goodbye.
You have a week of sleep.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. God, no one's going to get that
Oh,
reference.
no. No one would have been born when that was on TV.
Apart from you old age dinosaur.